ladies and gentlemen and non-binaries, this show we speak freely. Now and then we let loose a cuss word, and we don't do it egregiously, but it happens because we are speaking to each other as if we are at a MACNA or another trade show at the bar after the trade show and just talking shit and all that. So, you know, if you have little ones running around and they don't use cuss words and you're a Quaker and you're a Puritan and you're afraid of curse words, then just be careful. But that being said, this is the Reef Beef.
My name is Rich.
And my name is Ben.
And now Ben is going to tell you what we're going to do on this Reef Beef.
This Reef Beef, we're talking about calcium reactors because I have stayed away from calcium reactors for a very long time, but I'm going to dial in. And we're going to talk about crappy ball valves because why do you do that? You know? And this show is brought to you by saltwateraquarium.com and powered by PolypLab.
Powered by PolypLab. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. If we want to open the hood for a second for the beefers, we did a bunch of shows back to back, so they were kind of banked. And
Continue.
I like it. And so you and I haven't actually talked for a little while. It's summer, it's spring, it's summer. So I'm getting busy in the afternoons and evenings, which is when you and I usually record. And then there was the Aquatic Expo, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. So we haven't actually talked. Years.
It's been a couple of years.
Except when we were pounding out the Ask Reef Beefs.
Yeah.
So yeah, things are fine with me though. I got no complaints at all.
That's awesome. How's your system doing?
Lots going on with my systems. There's a lot going on right now.
And your corals are all moved underneath the house and all that?
In the frag system, so under the house now there's a frag system and there's a consulting system. So the consulting system is coming online, and I just found out what corals they may be putting in there.
I was thinking you meant like you had like a green screen and like a little studio downstairs and you do consulting underneath your house.
No!
That would be so rad.
You've been in that crawl space. That would be not the easiest.
I lived in that crawl space. I think I ate beef jerky in that crawl space.
You did eat beef jerky in that crawl space. So I moved all of my frags to the frag system, not the consult system. The consult system under the house gets frags, I think, at the end of this week. But I had just started moving everything under the house. And I did something stupid, another stupid thing that Richard Ross has done. It's the weakest part of any system is you. Ben in everybody's system. On these tanks, they don't have a pump that goes to them and then a drain. I'm using Apex doses basically to do automatic water changes on them.
Okay.
Because I can't get the gravity drain because it's a 40-inch crawl space and they're too far away. And the frag system had high salinity. So I took its intake from the sump and moved it over to my freshwater cistern and then forgot about it for a couple of days.
Oh, crap. If it's not one thing, it's the other.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, if only I had a device I carried around with me that I could just use my voice to ask it to remind me to remember something in a couple of hours or a day.
But why do you shortchange yourself like that? Because wasn't that a study you were doing on the resiliency of corals to salinity changes?
Yeah, I found the limit. I found the limit on frags and snails. The only, and it's not really that much of a bummer, but I had a frag rack in one of the tanks behind me that was all encrusted with really nice acro and setosa and some really pretty and some Indata and some stuff people would want. And I had gone through and fragged all of those and put them on frag plugs, and everything was booming. And then I killed everything in that tank.
Way to go.
Although, excitingly, Ben, it gives me more ammo for my algae talk that I'm giving at MACNA.
Yeah, because you created algae?
As soon as the herbivores went away, guess what happened?
Let me think. Could it be algae?
Yeah, do you want to see pictures? I got pictures.
I always want to see pictures.
Let me get to the pictures. Here is a still. Can you see that okay?
I can.
See all the dark area in the back there at the top of the photo?
I can.
That's all algae.
Wow. But it's reddish?
It's just, I took it under blue lights.
Oh, okay.
So I got, when it happened, I was like, fuck. You know, and I was doing stuff to make it better. And then I at least remembered to take a picture instead of just, I'm going to deal with the problem. And you can see all my dead frags. You can see they're totally white. Everything's just white.
They didn't even try. They just gave up the ghost.
They just, it was like 9 parts per thousand.
Oh my God. You went from like 40 parts per thousand to 9.
I went from like 38 to 9. But let's see. Don't look at that yet.
Oh, wow.
That's what it looked like about 4 days after I put some snails in there. But this is the most exciting picture right there.
Richard, do you know what those marks are made by?
By lowering nitrate and phosphate. Sorry, for people who don't have the video, in this picture, it's one of the back sections of the tank that was covered in algae, and you can see all these little radula snail mouth trails eating all the algae.
That's what I was about to say, is the radula. And did you know when we use the word rad, that is short for radula?
You know, I didn't know that, but that makes the most sense at all.
It does.
And I think it's radula.
I like this little group of floating bubbles that won't pop on the surface.
Isn't that nice? You know why those are there? It's because there's no overflow on that tank. It's in and out with a peristaltic pump.
That's so radula.
So anyway, that gives me more.
Dude, they got after it.
How do I? Where's the? They did.
That is
get
a lot
after
of. That's a lot of radula work right there. I guess that's just crazy because.
There we go.
You know, I look at that and I'm like, someone out there, you know, would see this mess and freak out. And I understand though, because freaking out sometimes happens when you don't have a lot of experience. So that makes sense. Yeah. But just, you know, to have seen that mess and like, you know what, a bottle of some innocuous bullshit's going to take that out.
I've been having some interesting discussions about algae online. And I've asked in a couple places if anybody, and I'll ask here, if you have examples of algae going away by just lowering nitrate or phosphate, I would like to see them. Don't shake your head yet, Ben. Maybe somebody has got them. Thus far, every single person who has come forth and said they have an example of that also had herbivores in the tank and manually removed the algae.
Okay.
So I think what people don't get is, here's my MACNA talk. In a pre-version done very quickly. People don't deal with it when it's small, and then the algae establishes itself while they're dicking around trying to mess with nutrients, and then they've got algae covering everything, and they don't know what to do, and they're scared and worried about it, and then they restart their whole tank.
Yeah, but they throw it out the window.
Yeah, if they go through and pull the algae down so the herbivores can actually get to it, because the herbivores on the reef that eat full-grown algae are different than the ones we keep. Ours nibble. They can often get ahead of it. Now, that doesn't mean you might not need to add some more snails or herbivores, and it doesn't mean that we got caught up in one of the conversations in a weird thing about that somehow I was saying that nutrient levels don't make algae grow faster.
Yeah.
And I keep saying
which is not true. I just don't feel like you're going to, but on the, that's on the upward side, upward amount of nutrients. On the downward side, I'd say you're going to go so low, you'll kill everything else.
It's not my question at all. I mean, if I guess my thesis is that lowering nitrate and phosphate won't impact algae enough for the juice to be worth the squeeze.
As much as it will affect all the things you're trying to keep and make happy.
Yeah, I think you know, if I had to guess percentages, like how much does lowering NP impact algae, I'd say somewhere between 10 and 50%.
Are you just pulling that number out of your ass?
Right out of my heavily experienced, many tanks over 40 years, studying this shit professionally, ass is where I pulled that from. Also, there are some studies that show, you know, because people care about eutrophism, and we don't have eutrophism in our reefs. We have.
Can you define it real quick for the viewer?
Eutrophic is when there is so much nutrients in the water that it crashes your O2 from algae blooms.
Yeah.
But also, eutrophic can be a weasel word. It can mean almost anything you want it to mean.
I mean, isn't that a situation in the wild you'd find like in a lagoon or something?
Yeah, so like where you're getting all the agricultural runoff, you get these algae blooms, which take up all the oxygen, kill all the fish, and let other algae grow, and then the system doesn't really recover. We're not getting algae blooms in our tank. I think that's an important note, that the people, it's not a bloom. You've let the algae grow out of control. Now it's established. That's different than a bloom.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So I don't think our tanks are eutrophic messes yet. I don't think that the levels of nitrate and phosphate we're getting are enough to trigger the problem.
My brother, you need to come down here to Texas at some point, because I will, and not under my charge, but the people that try to contact me, I have seen some eutrophic messes.
Yes.
Where people like, can you help me fix this? And I'm like, literally like, pour bleach in it and kick it onto the floor.
Yeah. Now, a eutrophic mess, I agree with. You probably want to restart that. If you got a bunch of algae, that's it.
Yeah.
But you gotta not let it. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
You gotta get it while it's small. If you let it go, if you never weed your garden, it's gonna be a huge chore to deal with when you finally try to do something with it. But if you weed it when you weeds, it's really quick.
Do all microalgae, or I guess all is a bad word to use in science, do most microalgae, are they reproducing like by spores? Is that just something I have in my head?
They, my understanding, and I am not a phycologist, not a phlebotomist. Which one does blood?
Blood is phlebotomist.
Phlebotomist. So I'm not a phycologist, but my understanding is they can put out spores, but they can also grow vegetatively.
Vegetatively. Okay. Well, so I'm thinking, you know, when you let an algae go way out of control, you're just dealing with an exponential amount of growth and sporage.
Yeah. You know, and you know, looking at my super experienced butt again, I would say that we're really not, it's not sporification that's spreading the algae in our tanks.
Really?
I don't think it is. I think it's the algae growing and then pieces of that breaking off and then establishing in other places.
I mean,
you know,
because if you were...
It takes coralline algae about 6 months to build up enough steam in our systems to be reproductive, if everything is going well. I don't think algae's... my gut feeling is we're not getting spawning events. It's just growing.
But then you're equating... We're on a slippery slope there, because you're equating calcareous algae breeding habits to microalgae.
Yeah.
So who knows?
And of course it's not the best comparison, but you know, sometimes comparisons are useful. People sometimes get caught up in the, and it's good to point it out. I'm reacting to other people, not you. You know, people will go, you know, forget what people go. In our hobby, often all we have is anecdote from experienced folks to rely on, and that's fine. It's fine. And you know we could be wrong about all of it, but
I mean, at least anecdote puts you on the pathway, hopefully.
Yeah.
But then better observation and details and information.
Yeah. It's funny, man. People want to. I don't need to go into this. Never mind.
That's another show, Richard.
That's just a thing. And then you're a showrunner for this show, and I'm babbling. Is there anything else exciting? Let me see if there's anything else about my system.
We've switched roles. You're the one babbling.
That anyone cares about. That's good.
Yeah.
I don't. There's just a bunch of regular. I broke down and bought algae magnets for each of the 4 tanks behind me.
What brand you go with?
I went with the mag floats because the glass is not very thick.
Yeah.
I want the metal blade, but that's how lazy I am that I don't want to move a magnet between the tanks.
The metal. Can I say? Should I say that? Should I say an opinion?
On this show, no.
The metal blade on mag floats is god awful.
It's not that great.
I don't mind mag floats just as a general magnet algae cleaner, but for whatever reason the metal blade bends very easily.
Oh sure,
only digs channels around.
I never take them out though, so it doesn't bend.
That's true. Or just don't hit corners and don't hit anything.
Yeah, I just store them with the blade up at above the water.
Yeah, because my favorite one for that is Tunza.
Yeah, one of these has got a Tunzi on it, but the mag float works just as well.
No way.
For these tanks.
Okay.
For these very thin glass tanks.
Okay.
Anything thicker, I don't like them. For the display in the other room, it's a Tunza. Tunza's, I think, is a better product, but the money's not worth the squeeze of the juice for me to pay extra for Tunzies in these tanks. Meh. Oh my God. So many choices. People, this podcast is powered by PolypLab. We're happy to have them back again as another sponsor. They're great. We have some of the stuff we use from them we really, really like, and the stuff that we don't use from them we don't talk about because we've never used it, so we can't say anything about it. But things I'm currently liking is their Genesis blocks. They're very hard. They don't crush. And they seem to be making a big difference as a biomedia block for me. And the Reef roids, I feed the crap out of it. It's one of the go-to foods. I fed it to baby corals and they grow. I feed it to adult corals and they grow. I like the gluelets. I used to think, oh, I like these big ones because I use so much glue. But, if I'm putting stuff on frag discs, the gluelets are the best.
For sure. So thank you, PolypLab. Thank you for sponsoring. Thank you for powering us.
Yes, PolypLab. Even though you're Canadian, we love you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So many choices. All right, the first thing first. This is Reef Beef underwear.
Those are rad.
So, Dick Johnson podcast underpants.
We need to make female ones.
Those are female ones.
Yeah, those are comfortable.
Get out of the patriarchy, you jackass.
I know. Females have balls too.
All right, so a couple weeks ago, we got these packages in the mail. And they turned out to be from Jason Langer. You tell people about Jason.
I got special ones. So Jason Langer, what's that called? Foursquare Aquatics?
Yep.
He has a company called Foursquare Aquatics that makes algal turf scrubbers. And he also makes the craziest cookies I've ever seen. Look at that fish cookie guy. And Richard, because I'm a type 2 diabetic, I got special ones.
Oh, he made you cookies made out of mud so you can eat them?
Well, they're not as like sharp looking. What did he call them? Like just keto ones.
Let's see. Some of mine broke in sending, but here. Does that look better than yours?
Yeah, and look at this Reef beef.
Oh, beef. These are all from the Reef beef shirt, or from the logo that we have.
Yeah.
So he made these cookies. Freaking amazing, right? And then he also, because Jason is so awesome, Here's another one I'll show you. Here's a clownfish that made it. I won't show you the little bit of that fish under there. He also sent us cookie cutters. Did you get cookie cutters? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the Reef beef cookie cutter.
You can make your own beefs.
So I think Jason is great. Oh, there you go. Thank you for the cookies, Jason. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the other art that's around here that Jason has done. Jason is very, very skilled and talented. And he's also a good dude. I love his approach to everything. You know, he makes the algae turf scrubbers. And he and I and a couple other people talk about them a lot. And Jason is very comfortable with going, I can't tell you any of the science behind this. I can tell you that it's working in my system and it works in other systems. Let's try to figure out what makes it work or what makes it not work in your system rather than fight about it works. So I really love Jason's approach to reefing.
I've seen those conversations. The thing I like that I always sort of look for is he doesn't get defensive about it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you very much, Jason. We appreciate that. And you, Jason. He's just a freaking nice guy, man.
I think you want to be with him in a
biblical
manner.
Cookies, baby. Yeah, I wish I used algal turf scrubbers because I'd like to use his.
So, Richard, I, as a professional, as far as putting in for alkalinity and calcium and things like that, I have been a dosing fool for, literally decades now. Since I walked away from calcium reactors in the late 90s because I worked for a company in Dallas and we had all calcium reactors all over the place. But that was in the 90s and there was just, the equipment, just like everything else, wasn't as good. And my dealings with them at work were frustrating enough to make me do dosing. Now, dosing back then wasn't awesome either, but I felt like it was just less fuss and muss. Now, of course, I'm a professional, so as much as I can, I try to pay attention to all emerging, ideas and pieces of equipment and this and that. So I'm not coming to you like, I'm completely ignorant about calcium reactors. That's not the case at all. It's just not running one on a daily basis has left me, pretty rusty. Maybe good in the knowledge department of them, but bad in the hands-on part of it. So what I came to, though, is I got tired of dosing 2 parts, so I started dosing that Tropic Marin all for reef stuff in a lot of tanks, and it's great. It's done great for me. But on some of my larger or more dynamic, and by dynamic, I guess I mean brighter lights, more corals, lots of growth, high demand type situation, it just wasn't keeping up. So
how big is the system?
Well, it's several of them. One of them is 180 and the other one is a 300.
Okay.
And those two in particular are just killing it. Let's see, I guess right here, I'll provide video or photos of both of those systems, but they're just doing so good. And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but with Tropic Marin, they sort of caution you to do any more milliliters than the tank is in gallons daily in milliliters. So if I had a 300-gallon aquarium, they tell you to start being careful, like around 300 milliliters a day. And then, they say check on forums because some people are like, oh, I'm doing more than that. So yes, viewers, there's going to be, your mileage may vary, but I just was adding. So, and not only that is they do the dry form now and it's so much more cost effective, but literally in that 300-gallon aquarium, I was adding so much I had to switch the dosing container to a 5-gallon jug that runs out in like a month. And I just started to feel like, that's for me selling it to you, we're getting close to, a couple $100 a month. And I'm just like, dude, it's just time to mess with a calcium reactor.
Yeah, it's been time since 2004.
Yes. Well, no, I would say no, man, because there's in particular these a couple things I've been watching. Because let me put it this way: as doing this as a professional, within reason, I gotta get into where a client's at, do my thing, and get out in a reasonable amount of time. I can't freaking sit there all day. So that's one of the things that's had me gun shy about messing with reactors all this time, like dialing them in and all this stuff. With the feed line, like back in the 90s, we would have like mini ball valves or whatever we wanted to use to sort of feed the system, or you had pumps. Well, so the two things I think that have been interesting that I've seen the last couple of years is continuous duty peristaltic pumps that you can calibrate, and also a specific product, which is that carbondoser.com regulator. That's like a digital regulator. And I think that those two things are very interesting to me as a pro, because if I can dial something in and it's more consistent, then that's less likelihood of things messing up. What are you laughing at, sir?
I, not you. I'm not laughing at you. If I was laughing at you, I'd be pointing. I'm laughing with you.
What's so funny though? What's tickles your fancy?
The carbon dosers have been around for 10, 12, 15 years.
No, I know it's not. I'm not saying it's recent. I'm just.
Oh, the new to you. Yeah, no, those things.
I'm not even saying that. I'm not even saying new to me. I just been watching it. I mean, I know it came from like the planted world, but
I'll tell you, the way I used to run a calcium reactor, right? Because it was the same thing. Randy's 2-part was around, but you couldn't buy it. You had to make it, or you were dosing calc. And, it was about the same kind of thing about, or do you want to dose 2-part or calc or run a calcium reactor? About 200 gallons, it starts to become more cost effective to run a long term to run a calcium reactor. But, dialing it in, I mean, I'm wrong, because I just described that I bought an algae magnet for all 4 of the tanks back there. So, yes, having to put the glycerin in a bubble counter absolutely made a calcium reactor harder to deal with. Now that there's a little light that blinks, it's easier.
Yeah.
I was going to say that that's wrong and stupid, but it is absolutely not wrong and stupid.
But you got to see, the way I look at it is for me to jump back on board with calcium reactors, I need all that technology to be as sort of predictable and consistent. And
are you running it with the Apex?
One guy does have Apex, so we're going to do all that. The other guy doesn't. I want to talk him into it later, but he's dragging his feet on it.
So I think as non-professional people, it needs to work just as much as it does for you. I guess offsite makes a little bit of a difference. But if you don't have the ability to control it remotely, it's a little bit better with the newer equipment. Okay.
I'm just thinking profit margin, because if I show up to your tank and I'm farting around with the calcium reactor for 30 minutes and I don't do anything else that I'm supposed to have done, either I don't do it, which is not great, or I spend more time there and I'm like, I'm messing with my profit margin of just dicking around with the tank for 2 hours when I'm getting paid for 1 hour.
Well, then absolutely you should change your pay fee structure so you get paid for the time you actually work.
Which is great, but in my market here, I charge quite a bit. So, that'd have to be a conversation I have with each client. But, in some people, I'm charging them so much. This sounds terrible, but it's true. I'm charging them so much. I'm like, hey, I'm going to charge you double because I'm dicking around with your piece of equipment. That would probably just lose the client.
Well, I think if you said it that way, you would probably lose the client.
Of course, but I'm just talking you and me. Listen, sir.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. The last consulting people, when I quoted them what it was going to cost them, they said yes immediately. And I thought it was a lot of money. And I'm wrong, because they said yes without a thought.
Yeah, like it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, so I think the people who have bagillion-dollar homes would pay you an extra $50 if you needed to be there for another half an hour. But
For sure, when you put it
but
that way, but I get paid more than $50, but that's okay. But and to be honest with you, it's crazy because I mean, I have all this experience of dealing with these people. The crazy thing is you think all my clients are gajillionaires, and I have those, but people's priorities are so strange. I've done actual billionaires before that have the crappiest little aquarium, and I have other people that probably shouldn't even have the tank that
yeah,
spend all their freaking money on it, and it's gorgeous. It's
but
so weird.
I've derailed you. I am sorry about that.
It's okay.
You've decided that calcium reactors are something you want to go to. So let's talk more about that rather than
At least on a couple clients. So it's like I'm going from book knowledge to get my hands on. So let me tell you, with the first client is where we've gone the furthest. You know, I ordered a carbondoser.com regulator. We got it. Ordered a Comair, I think it's called an XPST, the continuous duty doser pump. We ordered a Geo because it's funny. I went onto Facebook and asked all my other aquarium friends, like, hey, if you're going to get a calcium reactor, what would you do? It was crazy. Resoundingly, everyone said Geo, which I've known of them for a long time. But the guy had to make, you know, they make these. I think that they hand make them like one at a time because it took like a month to get it.
And they've been around forever.
Yeah.
Does it have thumb screws?
Well, I have to, it came to the client. The client ordered it because I wanted him to hurry up and get it instead of me open up an account. What do you think of those new things, those new latches that I saw that?
There's some latches that open thumb screws easier. I haven't, instead of thumb screws, the problem is thumb screws are a pain in the ass and they swell over time.
Yeah, they do.
And they can break and stuff. I will never run a calcium reactor with thumb screws again.
Huh.
It's just too frustrating. I haven't used those new clips. The metal in them doesn't bug me so much because they shouldn't really be contacting anything. Maybe they work.
The other thing I've done before is I've taken nylon screws and turned them upside down in any of those situations, and then get the nylon wing nut and do it like that. Then you have wing nuts all the way around. Those are easier to turn.
Yeah, my calcium reactor has got a screw-on lid.
You have like the Bentley of calcium reactors.
I don't know. I don't think he's making them anymore. I have
I don't either.
A Bill Wan one, and I'll tell you the main reason I wanted it was because it had a screw-on lid and not thumb screws.
Not because it's built like a
at the academy at Steinhardt, all the calcium reactors have thumb screws, and it was just so horribly frustrating. You know, and then you have to go get to unscrew them, and then they bind, and then you have to get a fucking pliers, and you got to turn it slowly, and then it snaps off, and it's just, and then you end up not servicing them, right? You end up instead opening the tiny hole and putting a funnel and trying to get your media to go through. And in the past, I've taken calcium reactors and cut the top and put on my own screw lid because it just makes me crazy.
And not to get derailed, I'll run right back into it. But the other funny thing is that I sort of understand thumb screws like on a small hobby grade reactor. But when I worked at the Houston Zoo and we had a 12-foot RK2 skimmer, and man, I wouldn't even know anymore. It was something like 24 thumb screws across the top. And it's like, why would you even attempt to do that?
Such a nightmare.
Or even 30. It was like 30 of them all the way around the top.
No, but my skimmer, also from Bill Wan, came with all of those, but I never take it apart.
Yeah.
Like I get it for shipping. Yeah, it makes it easier to ship if you can take it apart. But if I had to, if there was any kind of thought that I would have to regularly undo those screws.
See, you'd barely ever do it, and that almost makes it worse because those screws are going to be stuck in there because you don't work them very out. It's just, it's not the way to go on that. So the way I wanted to approach this was I have my own, I have a whole page here of like thoughts and questions, and I have some that are my, questions in earnest, and some that I know the answers to, but I'm just asking for benefit of the viewers. So it's not like, again, like I said, it's not like I'm a complete dipshit with calcium reactors. But I sort of want to do it to where I'm kind of posing the questions to you and then we talk about it.
Okay.
Are you down with that?
I'm down. Oh my God. So many choices. Ben, you know what's coming up September 9th through 11th this year in Milwaukee?
MACNA?
MACNA. We haven't had a MACNA in 3 friggin' years, and we're going to have one. I'm pretty excited about it. There are a lot of trade shows you can go to. I think MACNA is the one that focuses on education.
Yep.
There's a nice trade show floor, and you can buy a bunch of stuff. But man, being able to press the flesh and go to talks and talk to people who know stuff, and go to those talks and have conversations like we have afterwards, I think they don't get as good as they get at MACNA. So Milwaukee, I think I'm giving a talk there. I believe we're going to force you to come as well, and we'll do a couple of shows from there.
I would love to be forced.
I think Reef Beef is forcing you to go.
Yeah.
Reef Beef is funding Ben to go to MACNA is basically what that means. So come on out. The speaker list is looking really good. And I guess I got to say, I am actually, I'm on the board of directors of MACNA now, which is the organization that makes MACNA happen. I don't necessarily work directly on the MACNA stuff except for the speakers and the awards, because I think that's where I can be useful. But
is that like a self-licking ice cream cone?
it's exactly what that is, and I don't want it to be that, because the only reason I'm on the board of directors is because I think MACNA is so good and so useful that, and I think MACNA is so good and so useful that they need people to help them and do stuff. If nobody does it, nothing happens. So I hope to see everybody at MACNA. It'll be good to see everybody in person, and man. Yeah, I think you have to come, Ben. I think we have to make that happen because we can do some shows live or we could do them not live.
Let's do it.
So, great. MACNA, come. 2022, Milwaukee,
Reef.
9 through 11.
Milwaukee.
Tell them Reef Beef sent you.
Tell them Reef Beef sent you.
Oh, my God. So many choices.
So let's just go through a few questions and thoughts, and I'll throw them at you, and we'll try to let's just go through them. So one thing is, sort of like skimmers or not, like, is bigger better? Would a bigger calcium reactor, it's not going to hurt a system. I mean, maybe you're looking for, like, you'll have to take it apart less or do stuff less, but it's not going to do anything more for you, correct?
Right. It just means you have to add media to it or clean it out less often.
But what if you put a giant calcium reactor on a 50-gallon reef? It will not hurt it, will it?
No, not if you dial it in correctly, which is always the answer anyway. So it just becomes a cost thing.
Okay.
How much more money do you want to spend for a bigger reactor?
So another thing that's popular, I guess it's, trying to capture the carbon dioxide that inherently comes out of a reactor, is a lot of people put these dual chambers. And I guess, and I'm sure it's been done, but I'd like to see some experiments, showing how effective it is or not.
I
had asked you about it privately. You said you didn't care for them.
I've never seen anything that supports the idea that they're really the cat's meow. Just people saying it. When I messed with them, I found the juice not to be worth the squeeze at all. I didn't see any difference in pH. The second chamber never seemed to dissolve. I just didn't. It was just this thing that was there in the way that I had to maintain. That,
like, I'm just thinking hypothetically. So you get that effluent coming out of there, and it's not necessarily low enough to treat that dual chamber as if it's like another calcium reactor. So who's to say that it would even really dissolve any of that material anyways?
There's also not generally a recirculation pump on the second chamber.
Straight through
or straight out the top.
Yeah.
How does that water get through that second chamber? And when I messed with those is when you had to build them yourselves. And there was a square model somebody had that I built, because they don't have to be round. And the second chamber, like I said, never made me happy. If I cared about volume, I would go with a bigger single chamber calcium reactor. Probably mostly because of the recirc pump. So
Okay.
it's taking all that CO2 and entraining it and getting it back into the water again as it recirculates through the calcium reactor media.
Okay.
You know, if you're a beefer and you've got great evidence and experience with the second chamber, let me know. And you know, people say that it can bleed off the CO2, so bring the water back up in pH before it gets to your tank, because sometimes calcium reactors have been said to depress the pH in a reef tank. I just run my effluent through a cup of crushed coral that's above the tank.
Oh, I know that part you're talking
Yeah,
about.
so I think all of that dripping through that off gases the CO2. So by the time it reaches I could probably test that too. If enough people ask me to test that effluent after it goes through the the crushed coral, I will.
Come on, beefers, ask him to do it, because apparently all the money it takes to do that is attention. So if you give Richard enough attention, he'll do some science.
Yeah, I'll test some effluent for you.
You know, I think in thought, I don't know about in practice, you know, that just all throughout the years, there's been like, you know, send the effluent from your calcium reactor into your brightly lit refugium or algal turf scrubber. Like the thought was that, you know, algae will uptake that, you know, and I suppose, but as far as I know, like I said, I'm sure there's a test out there somewhere that someone has done, but it just seems like a thought experiment. And then, but that's so funny. Those thought experiments cause people like, yep, that's what you do. You put it in your refugium.
That's a great way to say it. That's what, back to the algae thing we were talking about earlier. What I'm seeing is it's all thought experiment. All the support for the idea of lowering N and P impacting the algae is all, well, if you add it, it grows. If you lower it, it should stop it as well. But I don't think that's what actually really happens. Anyway, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if no one has ever actually checked the effluent of the calcium reactor before it goes in.
Yeah,
that's not true. Somebody
the ins
has.
and outs of like refugium. What do you have calurpa in there? Does it uptake CO2 like chitomorpha does? You know, what are you lighting it with? There's just a lot of confounding factors. You can't just say put it in a refugium and you're good to go.
Yeah, and how far downstream have you tested to see if the pH has come up? And I just put the effluents into a high flow area in the sump, so it flips around. I suppose you could also drip it into the skimmer, and then the whole point is moot.
But okay, so I have done, you know, thinking about all this, I've done a lot of thought experiments on this too. So I was thinking, you know, put it into the skimmer. But so correct me if I'm wrong here, but so I'm thinking about an aquarium. It's all sort of buttoned up. You know, if you have a canopy, maybe you don't have a canopy, but the stand, and certainly that's in a stand. So the problem with carbon dioxide is it very readily dissolves into water. So unless you have a fan or a ventilation system, or you're pumping air from outside, or it's well ventilated, like you could put it in the skimmer, but then carbon dioxide will still be sort of trapped under the stand and will still get right back into the water, correct? I mean, it doesn't go anywhere.
If the system is closed, right? So yeah, this is a good point, because we always have to start from what is it? What is the system in your head? And I don't think about enclosed sumps without outside air, because I wouldn't set up a system like that.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to remember that that's probably most systems out there. Most systems don't have your setup where your stuff's all underneath your house.
Yeah. So then you're just if you put your child in a box with no fresh air, you're going to get a problem. So yeah. Yeah. If your pH is problematic to start with, and you're adding effluent with more CO2 in it, you're going to drive it down even more.
Well, like people would think, you know, you put the effluent in right before the skimmer, because the skimmer will gas it off.
But I'll
But
tell
my
you,
problem is gas it off to where? Back into the sump where it will readily
well,
dissolve right back into your water.
it depends. You know, if the back of your sump is open, if the back of your stand is open, you're probably getting enough gas exchange through there. And if you're
Without even actively like using a
I,
fan to move it.
probably. And if not, but see, these are the things. It's because people look. It's a no-brainer to me to put an exhaust fan or to push air through your sump if you have equipment down there,
Yeah.
right? Just because that humidity is going to impact your stand over time.
Yeah.
So I guess, but that's if you're in it for the long term. Look, I came from remember Mr. 4,000 gallon tank? Remember that guy? Remember he had a 4,000 gallon tank in a room, and then a year later he had to like tear down the whole building because the humidity just ruined everything.
Did he change his name to Mr. Tear Down a Building?
Mr. Humidity. He did some great work. It's real useful now. But when I set my tank up in the house, the first thing I did was poke a hole through the side of the house and put a fan on it to blow the air out.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's just so there's a group of things, and maybe this is something we should talk about on another show. There's a group of things that are so easy to do and so inexpensive to do that they just seem worth doing because they likely impact some things that could be an issue. So exhaust, I think you got to do something. Fresh air in for if you're in the house. I think it's just easy enough to do something.
It feels like you could go down the rabbit hole because you could even ventilate under your cabinetry to get rid of excess carbon dioxide that may be trapped in there. But then your aquarium's sitting in a smallish room, then it's still in the room.
Right. So, but that's why I like I say, come to my house, there's a hole in the wall with a fan on it, blowing air out from the canopy of my tank.
I mean, first of all, don't go busting holes in your. First of all, you have to figure out if this is even an issue on your system or not. Who knows?
It's really easy to put a hole in your house and put a fan on it.
So okay,
but then
so
you also need an intake. You need fresh air coming in and old air going out. Or I guess you could just do fresh air coming in with a fan, and then that pushes through your canopy and your sump, then out into the room.
Positive air pressure.
Yeah. But then you're getting humidity in the room.
Yeah.
So I think an in and out's no problem. You know, it's but if you're a beginning hobbyist and you've got a 50-gallon tank,
you're not getting into all this.
You're not getting into all this. So
well, that's a whole nother show, but those are the weird hurdles when we make suggestions and it's people just starting. They're like, yo, I just started in this hobby. I'm not cutting holes in my wall. And like,
Correct.
well, you might later. But right now you're just like, so anyway, so based off of that, where my mind was going, thinking all this through is I do use Calc reactors a lot. Now I used to tie them to ATOs and I quit doing that. And I feed them with, say my tank evaporates this much. Well, I want to try to, this is a hypothetical amount.
8 inches.
And I want to come in here. Here's the amount. I want to come in here like this and use a doser to try to dose that much caulk washer throughout the day based on getting alkalinity readings and making sure that's not too much.
Let me fix this for our viewers who don't watch us but who listen.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Ben's hand gestures was, if you evaporate, if you're replacing from evaporation 10 units of water, he programs his caulk washer to fill 8 to 9 units of that 10 units and then lets the ATO work the rest.
Yeah. And while you're getting there, watch your alkalinity. Make sure that you're building up to that.
Yeah. And the reason you do that is because you don't want your ADO to go nuts and dose a ton of caulk washer.
Yeah. But I think, in my opinion, is caulk washer is a great antidote to excessive carbon dioxide in the water.
Sure. Well, it's a way to deal with it. That's an easy. Caulk washer comes with his own suite of issues. that, you know, may be lessened now with modern dosing devices. You probably have less, you know, there's more safeties involved. You know, it's very hard to kill a tank with caulk the way I did now, because if you're running it through a system with a controller, if the pH gets above 8.6, it stops the caulk washer from dosing. So that would have saved my tanks twice.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. Caulk washer can be problematic, but it's also really easy. So, yeah. Caulk washer is a good way to go. But again, on your 50-gallon tank, are you going to do that?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe not. Maybe you
mean,
just
it's a lot
dose
to
it by
think
hand.
about.
I used to
Yeah.
dose by hand.
Really?
Yeah, and then I quickly just did a gravity drip because dosing by hand sucks.
I remember doing that with little containers. That was like in the 90s. Little containers that, remember, you'd set it up at night,
Yeah.
mix the caulk washer, take the clear off, put it in like an IV drip thing. Even Kent Marine sold a thing that was like had an IV drip
Yeah.
bag thing.
Yeah.
to it.
Oh my God. So many choices.
Hey, I know a really good place to get saltwater aquarium equipment and liquids and foods and all sorts of stuff.
Saltwateraquarium.com.
Saltwateraquarium.com.
Yeah, now I'll tell you, I hung out with Kenneth, the owner of saltwateraquarium.com, at the MACNA Expo, at the Aquatic Expo. And he is such a cool dude, man.
What?
Kenneth
Yeah.
collects Pokemon, and it's awesome.
He does. And his last name is saltwateraquarium.com.
That's right. And Beefers, we tell you to like say hi to the grandpa who's packing your stuff. There's been a couple of Beefers have sent us the grandpa saying thank you and signing the packaging, signing the invoice, which is the best thing in the world.
Have we inadvertently like created a fictitious character that now Kenneth has to cover for?
No, he's a real dude. What's going to
Really?
happen though? He's an old dude.
Yeah.
At some point, he's going to go to that big
Big
distribution
water tank in the sky.
distribution center in the sky where Kenneth is going to make him keep working. But then he'll have, you know, they'll have to replace him then, or have a signature
You
forgery.
can replace a grandpa. There's
We
only
love Swa. I did just
Swa.
order from them. I ordered a
Yeah.
whole bunch of DI resin. That's what I ordered. It's not here.
Really?
yet. Yeah, I was out of DI resin, so I ordered more.
Thank you, saltwateraquarium.com, for
They're
all
great,
your
man.
tasty, tender vittles.
I ordered it on Wednesday morning, and it shipped that afternoon.
The grandfather ran it most of the way to your house.
Yeah, it's just they're fast. Their selection is really good. Their prices are good. Their support for the hobbyist is amazing. You can text them and they'll answer your questions. They have Facebook groups. They've got cleanup crews. They've got all kinds of deep discounts. Ben and I used them before Reef Beef. We were thrilled when they came on to Reef Beef.
Yep.
Take us home, Ben.
Saltwateraquarium.com. You gotta check them out. That's all you gotta say. Check out saltwateraquarium.com, beefers.
The
We
link
love
below, and tell them we sent you.
Use the link below, because then they'll know. Otherwise, they won't know who the heck you are. You'll just be another number in the crowd.
Oh my God. So many choices.
So media choices. I mean, that could be like sort of a silly detail that people could argue about. Oh, I do this, I do that. But I mean, so it seems to me from what I saw is that you want to, for the most part, stay away from smaller media sizes because it can sort of turn to dust and mush in your reactor.
That's all how you set it up.
Dial it in.
If you're making it into mush, you're pushing it too hard. Your CO2, your pH is set too low.
Yeah, and that's interesting. When I was studying up on this, like, you know, all the different reactors, and then hopefully I don't mess this up for this company, but Joe Caparata at Unique Corals, he sells that brand of reactor called Dasteco.
I've never heard anyone say that out loud.
Yeah, I know.
They use a really super dense media.
Yeah, something that's you have to take the pH, you know, because I think in most medias I'm seeing that you try to peg the internal pH of the reactor at like 6.5 to 6.7, but they use they were saying it's like marble almost that they use in there, and they go down to like, I don't know, I'm gonna get it wrong, but like 6.3 or something.
Something like that, maybe even lower. I read something about it once and went, well, that's a lot. That seems like a lot of CO2, but probably isn't that much more.
You know, that's marketing thing, and I'm saying that without necessarily looking into it. Like you know, like a product comes along, they have a rhyme and a reason why they're using this or that or this or that. Yeah. So I don't know too much about that one.
I think it's like salt to me. You want to use the media that you know you can continue to get, because then your tank is your reactor is dialed in for that media. If you keep switching media, you got to dick around with it to get it where you want it to be.
Again, with these thought experiments, it is funny the things that we do without actually testing for it. So, you know, there's another thing where they make, you know, what is it, remag and stuff like that, where it's like, you know, be sure and put some materials in there that have a little more magnesium in it so you can control your magnesium. You know, and I was also thinking, like, you know, wouldn't these, whether it's Carib Sea Arm or the Two Little Fishies, Proctor, any of these media, you know, don't they have a fair amount of magnesium in them already?
No.
They do not.
No, I don't think any. Remember, to add magnesium to your system, it takes a lot of magnesium.
Yeah.
So the little bit of magnesium that's in the skeletons is not going to have
balance out
any kind of meaningful impact.
So do you in your reactor, you put some form of...
I put the reborn in there. I have no idea if it's working or not. Because the reborn is really just supposed to keep the level. It's not supposed to increase your level.
Okay.
So I don't really know if.
Well, I suppose you could go in like once a month or so and like test magnesium and add it in liquid form.
I've got the Trident, and so I get magnesium doses, but I'm also doing 30 liters a day or soon to be more of a water change. So, I don't know what's keeping mine up. Once, I keep a bucket of mag chloride on hand in case I need to pop it up. But according to my Trident, it's running about 1220, 1250. Everything seems fine to me with that. Sometimes I'll bump it up to 13, but maybe the remag is helping keep it there.
Again, that's sort of another show, but that's when you're like, there may be some people out there like, oh my God, 1250. I have been told to keep it at this, and they go messing with it and they crash part of their tank. And it's like, you just got to be careful of your courses of action on measurements.
I did the elevated magnesium for a long time. 1450.
Yeah, was that back when people were fighting algae with that?
No, that never worked. I actually tried that with Tech M and did not kill my bryopsis. But I in hindsight don't see any benefit to the elevated magnesium. In hindsight, I don't see any benefit to the elevated alkalinity that I used to run. I just don't. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I'm glad for the experience that I had on messing with those, because they've gone into whatever I do now with my systems. But yeah, the elevated just doesn't seem to pay off in my experience.
Yeah.
You can do much less work, much easier, not riding the line of death. And my growth in tank seems just as good as ever.
Well, the last thing before we move on from reactors is where I'm currently in a bottleneck in, and some viewers are going to be like, Ben, because it's like, I should know more than that, but I hadn't been messing with reactors for a while. Is where do you get your bottles from? So,
they supply.
And then the different strategies, because that's the only part that we need to grab right now before I set it up next week. But that's the funny thing, is like, do you rent it? Do you buy it? Finding the place that's closest to you. And trust me, because I called them all and they all have different schemes. And then, the people that buy shiny new bottles, but when you go to get more CO2 and they don't give it back to you, and you're like, wait, I want my shiny bottle. And they're like, it doesn't work like that.
So my advice is you buy a bottle, because that way you can take it wherever the hell you want to and get it swapped out. So
yeah, but then you swap it out and they give you some paint encrusted like piece of crap.
Who cares?
Yeah. But then why'd you buy a shiny bottle for more money?
Because that's how you buy them.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a sunk cost that you're going to have to buy anyway. If and so if just or you know, or if you want to pay for it and you can rent it, they all just swap out around here. So I don't even know.
That's what me and the customer were brainstorming, because we came across one that had like a low. They were trying to do like a Netflix thing where it's like a low cost, but then when you look at over like 3 years, like why it's like your little cable modem box.
Yeah.
Which, you know, now I've had my little cable modem box for like 8 years. So technically I paid like $1,000 for a stupid little piece of trash.
Look, a 20-pound bottle is like $130 or something like that. Maybe even less.
Yeah.
You know what? Just fucking buy your bottle and just move on. If you're worried about how it looks, get a sleeve for it so you cover the bottle so your client doesn't go, but Ben, you're a professional that's worked in this industry. Yeah, you go, yeah, that's right. That's why I put a fucking blanket on that cylinder.
Yeah, yeah.
I think trying to squeeze $10 difference out of a CO2 bottle is a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think buy your damn bottle, you take it wherever you want, get new ones. You get whatever they give you anyway. No places anymore are going to take your bottle and fill it for you.
Yeah.
There's just no one's going to do that. And get 2 bottles is my recommendation.
Yeah.
Because then something goes wrong, you swap out, and then over the next week at your leisure, you go get a new refilled bottle as your backup.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I'm going to put an exclamation point on that one. I think you're crazy if you don't have a backup bottle in place.
Oh, yeah.
Because calcium reactor is really an alkalinity reactor in my mind. So if that goes offline, the most volatile, one of the more volatile parameters that we care about is going to crash on your system.
Yeah, you could kill stuff.
Yeah, way. And I would rather wake up at, the next morning and see that my alkalinity has gone from 8.6 to 7.5, gone and checked the cylinder. Don't go check it in the middle of the night. Nothing bad's going to happen in 12 hours. And the cylinder's super light. Swap it out when you're awake, and then you're fine.
Yeah.
I'm getting more than a year on my bottles nowadays.
Yeah.
Because it's dialed in. Oh, my God. So many choices. Ben, we do get a lot of love from our viewers. They smash like and they share our shows around. Our Scottish friends share them to Reef, which makes me giggle all the time.
Yeah.
And don't go to Reef, but definitely go to our threads on Reef. Beefers are really kind and really helpful to us and do things like, get Ben to go to MACNA to fund a trip. So what can people do to be awesome to Reef Beef and help support us to keep the show going?
Well, there's a couple things. Of course, there's merchandise. If you want to, let me put it this way. If you want to wear your support, like this hat that I'm going to see, it's kind of cool. It has like fake weathered things. I like this hat a lot. Reef Beef. And look at Richard. He's got underwear. You can put your genitals on us. I think turn it in the back. Turn it around. Does that stripe? Yeah, so straight up. Like whose face?
Your ass.
It's a butthole.
Oh, it's my ass. It's my face.
Oh, no, you're like the taint. You're on the taint.
You're the taint.
I'm the butthole.
You guys got some weird anatomy in Texas.
I know. It's like food bowls. But anyway, so we got the merchandise. You can find that on our website, Reef Beef Podcast. But also become a member. There's reefbeefpodcast.com/membership. So we have different membership levels, stuff you get to ask questions. You can even, I guess, sort of pay to be on the show. You get they're at the highest level. We get like a consultation calls with Richard and I. Sometimes we film it. You're going to see a couple shows where we filmed it.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we do that is because it's very hard for us being lame people to keep track of all the questions that are happening all over the social medias. Mm-hmm. So we set up the membership for Ask Reef Beef to get vetted questions to come directly to us instead of trying to keep up on the internets.
And I'll routinely go onto YouTube so beefers, hey, come engage with me on the YouTube comments. So when we post this video, look down in the comments section. And, I'm not going to make a full-time job of it, but I'll often ask just random questions that are asked in the comments. I just like to engage with the beefers.
Yeah, those are fun discussions. So
say something weird. Tell us how you were abducted by aliens. I have no idea. Just make comments.
Yeah. Yeah, and we got to read the reviews. That's still on our list. Thank you for all your support, beefers, and we appreciate it. And we appreciate you. Thank you. Oh my God, so many choices.
Hey, you got any beefs?
I do have a beef. Shitty ball valves is my beef, or is a beef. The problem with a shitty ball valve is over time it will calcify, and then you won't be able to turn it, and it will get harder to turn. And for a while, you'll be able to turn it with channel locks, and then you'll snap the handle off, and then you're in trouble.
Richard, this beef is crazy because it's ubiquitous.
Go ahead.
On gorgeous systems, on people that I look up to, on this or that. And I'm not browbeating anyone, but when you make the choice, which I think most people do, hard plumbing nowadays, it's not rocket science. Remember, like soft plumbing is sort of old school, but you make the choice to do that. It's fine. You can get all the fittings in the pipe from Home Depot or Lowe's, but beefer, you cannot use ball valves from Home Depot or Lowe's. Those are irrigation ball valves. They're garbage.
They are. Now, I'll disagree with you slightly, but not really.
Okay.
If you've got a saltwater mixing station and you've got valves that are, that have a couple of inches of pipe on either side, go ahead, use a shitty ball valve, right?
I still say no.
Well, I would say no as well, but in that situation, cutting out that valve and replacing it, you don't have to shut anything down. You're right. That thing is empty of water from time to time anyway. Yeah. So it's not that big a deal, right?
One of the things I hate about shitty ball valves is it takes so much pressure to turn them, because those ones you get at the big box store are meant for landscaping and you barely ever turn those.
And you also don't have the shitty fucking hard water that we have going through them.
Yeah, well, we do here in Texas as well.
Yeah, but it's not like running salt water through them.
Yeah. And so the question is, why would I put a ball valve anywhere on an aquarium where I don't want that son of a bitch to turn when I want it to turn? I'm sorry, getting back to how much pressure it takes to turn those shitty ball valves. If you have a long run of plumbing and you sort of, in my opinion, did your plumbing sort of wrong, a long run of unsupported PVC, every time you turn that ball valve, you're like tweaking the bulkhead it's connecting to, tweaking the everything it's connected to.
So, and I'm not talking about, some people think when you say a good ball valve, they think you put a true union ball valve everywhere. And that's not the case at all. Although, if you can, they're great, because much easier to swap stuff out, right? But the Hayward ball valve, just the regular glue ball valve, how much are they? You buy them more often than I do.
Now, that's the thing, because that's my only caveat that I totally understand, is because I'm thinking 3 brands off the top of my head that I like a lot. And
Spears.
They're pricey. Spears,
Hayward,
Asahi, and Hayward.
Yeah, those are the 3.
And go Google an Asahi ball valve and just sit down first.
Yeah, they're great.
They're incredible,
and they
also incredibly expensive.
You can change the ball.
Yeah.
So these things are made for you to replace parts and leave them forever.
Yeah.
But the Haywards are fine too. The Spears are fine. They're fine. They are more expensive than the $2 one you're going to get at Home Depot.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a quick story. When I set up the system under the house, between the sump and the return pump, I had a shitty ball valve. And it finally went. And it took me a long time to be able to deal with it. What I did, luckily I had a bulkhead, so I just got an 1.5-inch plug. Plugged the bulkhead from the inside of the sump, and then was able to cut out the old shitty ball valve.
Okay.
Right? And that was by design. It was like, yes, I'm using shitty ball valves, but I know I'm able to isolate this line if I need to. But my God, it would have been so much easier just to turn the ball valve and have it isolated.
I just can't help but to think that I want to start a garage punk band called Old Shitty Ball Valve.
Old Shitty Ball Valve. I think you should. And your first song is going to be Piece of Mustache. So
for anyone listening, I've been slowly shaving off my beard, and all I have now is a piece of mustache.
If you are a newer reefer and you decide that you want to use shitty ball valves because they're less expensive, and they are like by like $20 each, right?
But just the less shitty ball valve.
If you can use,
I think never from Home Depot or Lowe's. Those are not meant for aquarium stuff. But as far as I've seen, the crazy thing is like Hayward Spears and Asahi. I don't know any aquarium retailers that are selling those. Just because they can.
No, you got to order
expensive.
them.
Yeah.
But you can also order them.
That's like McMaster Car and.
Yeah, there's lots of plumbing places online you can order them.
Yeah.
Look, here's the deal. Just know, if you use a shitty ball valve, at some point, you're probably going to have a bad time because of it.
You're going to regret it.
You know? And I think I didn't cut mine out and replace the shitty ones. I just did that fucking end cap on it whenever I had to service the pump for like 3 or 4 years.
Oh.
Yeah. Because for some reason I thought the juice was worth the squeeze. It was, what was it? It was easier and took less time for me to do that than to cut it out and replace it. Which is, as you know, my MO for everything. Right? Yeah. It's just, I'd rather be kiting than chopping out plumbing. So there. Have we killed this? Look, so why did this beef come up? Somebody was talking about shitty ball valves. And I was like, just, you know, I don't like irresponsible using shitty ball valves. If you use shitty ball valves,
maybe.
If you use shitty ball valves, know they're going to suck, and then your life is going to suck while you replace them. And own that. If you don't want to own that.
Buy all the rest of your plumbing, the fittings, the pipe, all that from Home Depot, Lowe's, totally fine. But put some forethought into the components that twist and turn, and you don't want them to be that crappy.
I can make the knockdown argument for good ball valves, right? Let's say it was going to cost you $200 extra to buy good ball valves. The first time something goes bad in the middle of the night that you can fix by turning a ball valve that doesn't move, you will then go, fuck, it so would have been worth it to spend the extra money on good ball valves.
You're not going to go, I'm so glad I got this $2 ball valve that's now stuck.
Yeah. You'll go, it's the middle of the night. There are problems. I'm smart enough to have heater and water motion devices in my sump and in my tank. I'm unplugging this and turning off the ball valve, and I'll deal with this in the morning.
I have actually seen a case. Now, this is where, you know, and it wasn't me. I was watching someone mess with a tank, and someone didn't plumb it very well, and there was a $2 ball valve, and they went to turn the ball valve, and it cracked the pipe over by the bulkhead, and it was just hilarity ensued.
Now, just add on to this, there is a reason to use Schedule 80 plumbing everywhere instead of Schedule 40, and that's Schedule 40, the white stuff, Schedule 80, the gray stuff. Schedule 40 gets brittle over time.
Yep. So
your ability just to chop something out, I mean, the Schedule 80 gets brittled as well, but twice as slowly. 40 and 80, right? Man, when you go to chop something out and you shatter the whole line, your day has just become harder.
Well, Richard, you know this too, because Lord knows in my, when I go to a new system and it needs to be replumbed, and so I'm removing Schedule 40 PVC. And I do use Schedule 40 on some things, freshwater and, low budget saltwater aquariums, this and that. It's not that I don't use it, but when you go to use your pipe cutter to cut off a little section of old Schedule 40, and no, it doesn't cut.
Wear your safety glasses. Wear your safety glasses.
It shatters like 2 feet across the pipe. It's like, wow.
Now
dude.
that's it. I got a crap ton of Schedule 40 around. But it's probably good for another 20 years. We replaced some of it when you were here a few years ago.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, some of it shattered when I was cutting it.
Yeah, but we were able to fix that.
Because we're pros.
So what you do, you use a saw instead of a pipe cutter.
Yeah.
Because a pipe cutter works with pressure, and no one ever changes the blade. Anyway, I would say use the better plumbing if you can. But it's all learning experiences. At some point you're gonna be punching yourself in the neck, going, I wish I would used better ball valve, because now my tank is leaking and it's 2 a.m. and I got to get on a plane tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything about it.
Well,
and then you'll just use a non-true union, and you'll be like, fuck, if I had only used a true union, this would be fixed right now.
Yeah.
I would just swap it out.
Anyway. And with all that, beefers, we appreciate your watching all our shenanigans and our interesting tidbits of information. And we thank saltwateraquarium.com, and we thank PolypLab, and we thank you, mighty beefers, for giving us the impetus to do this show.
People, this podcast is sponsored by PolypLab. It's powered by People.
This podcast is sponsored by people.
Anyway, Charizard, how are you?
I'm good. Things are good. New clients are settling in.
Yeah.
It's always a settling process, not for them, but for me, like logistically, like figuring out the lays of their house, and whether it's freshwater, saltwater, where they allow me to dump water from, or, months ago, those couple reef tanks, I have to put some pictures up, but those couple reef tanks are starting to turn into something. It's just amazing. I mean, it's one thing when you're a hobbyist and you set up a tank, but when you're doing it for a living, it's just amazing how, you want it to go as quickly as possible, but you can't force it. It's just amazing how long it takes things to sort of start to find their own way and move towards the exit or entrance.
For sure. See this?
Oh, how dare you?
Well, at Mini MACNA, at the Aquatic Expo, Joe Cap and I are good friends. I like Joe very much.
I like Joe.
And there was some weird blood between Rich Frost, Chris Maupin, and what is this in the Triton Company in the past. And so he grabbed me and said, here, hold this. And he took a picture for Eshan.
Oh.
And then he was like, okay, great. And he went to take it back and went, my ass?
Yeah.
I get a free test for your joke.
Yeah, because he's about to have you as endorsing it. Richard Ross endorses ICP testing.
So there. Y'all
come back now, you hear?
Turn that smile upside down, little man. Your face is too handsome to get those frown lines.
I know. These crow's feet.
More like fucking Harpy Eagle's feet. Okay. Calcium reactors. Oh, you're eating cookies now with your Hitler.
It's a big one. A mighty big one. What's up, brother?
So sore and tired.
What'd you do? Did you get in a fight with a giraffe?
My life is so hard.
My beard is sort of beardy. I think I might remove part of it while we're filming.
Your beard is huge and ridiculous.
Just that.
Just that. I think that's good.
Here we go. All better.
You look like you were at Chernobyl or something.
Yeah, I was part of the Chernobyl crew. I drank some heavy water.
You were up on the roof?
Yeah.
Shoveling graphite into the pit?
They told me just to hold a big like parabolic aluminum reflector and I could reflect the radiation into space.
Oh, you are an unsung hero of the world.
I know. People are not singing about me.
Excuse me.
That's great for viewers. Viewers love that sort of thing.
Snowman likes the mouth sounds. And then, Snowman's gonna love this crap. There we go. Okay. Share screen. Oh my God. So many choices.
Oh.
Photos. Share.
Oh, it is sharing.
It is sharing. Okay. Oh, Ben, you are now invisible. However, will we do a show without you and your visibleness?
Yeah, cookies. I'll give you one later. My son's like, where are you going with the cookies?
So now you just fucking ruined the unboxing.
No, well, he'll cut that out.
No, I don't. Okay. So we're doing this now, and then we'll get back to calcium reactors?
Yeah.
If I have to remember what it was, though.
I know what it is.
Wait, I'll find it. I'll find it. We have an Ask Reef Beef, but we're gonna need to. We need to look at that for next episode.
Yeah.
57. Wow, 57.
Because your
Bitty
beef
ball valves.
is close to my heart.
That
I hope you don't treat your own body in this manner.
I treat your mom's body like that.
I know you'd every inch of it.
And smile.
Isn't that what? Hey, smile, baby. You're too pretty to look grumpy.
Turn that frown upside down, baby.
Yeah.